All right, everyone. It's the end of the year while I'm recording this, so I want to get really open and vulnerable with you. I really do believe that in my own quest to decolonize my mind and myself and do what really is true to me, which is being more of myself. When the whole world tells you, don't do this, don't reveal too much, I'm leaning into something new, which is decolonizing my mind to what everyone else is telling you not to do. And it doesn't align with me anymore. So I want to record this end of year episode as we are in the period of reflection about how we've been able to grow our business, the really painful lessons I've learned, we learned, how I've failed at many times as a leader. And I want to share that lesson with you. So, as you know, we had our biggest launch ever in our business. We had a really good, amazing launch. We had like over 60 or 70 amazing business owners join our brand new PR starter pack, and it was an incredible time. This was October of this year, and it was probably the busiest month of my life, where not only did I do 4 webinars in front of 1,000 total people, I also flew my team out from all different parts where they're from, and we did a sound meditation. I took them out. We did team retreats, and I also did my own founders event where I catered and brought PR Starter Pack members together, which really surprised and delighted them because this is not really a part of our programming. But I realized in building my business that the more I tap into my why and what really lights me up, which is to connect people, like nothing makes me happier than making people feel seen. Doing these events and doing them for free is just a natural extension of that. I'll get more into that later. But the one of the biggest mistakes, I'll share this in terms of like the biggest mistakes that I've learned and kind of why I learned those really painful mistakes. So the first lesson I learned is how scarcity is really the main driving force, or has been the main driving force of so much of my life for so long, and how after very painful lessons of burning out and basically working myself to the point where I was like having a mental collapse, did I start to understand how I was letting scarcity control so many areas of my life. You might also be able to relate. So January 6th of this year, I had a major abdominal surgery, kind of like a C-section, where they opened up my uterus, my stomach, to get to my uterus to take out a 11 centimeter fibroid. So that is the equivalent of a 15-week-old baby, and it's pretty much like a C-section, right? It's the same incision, it's everything. And on day 3, I got in front of the computer, I started working, and 3 to 4 weeks later, while I still had bandages on me, I did my first 6-figure launch. I had this goal for so long that I want to do a 6-figure launch, and I did it. And afterwards, I went into a complete and mental collapse where I had spiraling thoughts. I would start crying for no reason. I would have panic attacks. And even though, by all means, my business was a resounding success, my body was literally shutting down. I started to do a lot of research about, uterine fibroids, how our body keeps the score, how everything is psychosomatic, how all the trauma and the beliefs that we have is embedded in our body. And I really do believe that it is not a woo-woo thing. It's actually scientifically proven. I started to dig into why it is that I had this nonstop chase of more, right? More revenue, more bigger launches, more this, more that. And there was just this insatiable rat race that I was on. And I think in the online industry, when we count ourselves by followers and open rates, everything is measurable. You tend to gravitate towards that more, right? And we also live in a capitalistic society where more is better. And so I bought into that as well. And my complete mental collapse made me realize that I was literally just a little rat on a hamster wheel of this capitalist system that we live in, and how deeply I internalized capitalism. Now, growing up as a child of immigrants, I had scarcity embedded and hardwired in me, where we would save, plastic bottles and packaging, and trying to save like any penny that we could, right? Because growing up, my mother didn't have anything, and she gave me that scarcity belief as well, that we just have to hold on to everything. And so that permeated everything about me, to the way I ran my business, to the way I micromanaged people, the way I try to squeeze everything out of a situation, using high pressure sales tactics to close at all costs. And it really did not make me feel good. I didn't feel expanded. I was constantly on. My relationship suffered, but on the outside, I had a thriving business in the sense that yes, we were making more money than ever, but I wasn't in alignment with life, with abundance. My creative ideas were stifled because I was constantly in this highly anxious fight or flight mode where my nervous system was always just hyperactive, right? And I really do believe that, after doing a lot of work since the surgery and figuring out why it is that I had a burnout, even though I had reached all of my goals, right? That, realizing that the more money I made, the less happy I became. I really dug into why that is. And it really is because the way that I hustled and ran my business was based on scarcity. It was this inability to let go. It was this closed fist where I was trying to grab onto everything, get the most sales, right? Get the most people in my program. And through a lot of inner work and hiring coaches and ethical copywriters and making huge time and money commitments into coaching and resources, I have slowly started to take apart the narratives that I had deeply embedded me that inside me that more is better. And now I realize that if you see everything in terms of scarcity, of how there's not enough, how there's not enough time, enough people, and you just have to do as much as you can right now because your time is going to run out. Because that's really how I felt, and there was reasons for that. Obviously, I as a child, I moved around a lot. I had death of a parent very young. I was uprooted from my home many times, so there was always this scarcity mindset that one day my luck was going to run out, and so that energy of scarcity, of urgency, just permeated everything that I do, right? And I really did think that I just ran my life that way, where I was just always in a rush. And through a lot of the work that I've done in looking at the painful lessons of people not wanting to work with me or me not being able to build a team culture of a potential that I knew that I could become, right? That has made me really question how I wanted to build my business, why more money wasn't making me happier, and what to do instead. And I started to slowly uncover that if you're leading a business that's not driven by your why, your deeper why, that's coming from abundance, your values, and it's more about just driving revenue, you will always feel out of alignment, right? And the moment I started to break apart my messaging, starting with myself and looking at the ways that I bought into scarcity and how my marketing message was scarcity, right? With like, whether it's fake scarcity or high pressure sales tactics, I started to rewrite that. And so we've been doing a lot of work on our messaging, right? To have way more transparent policies, to not have fake countdown timers for urgency that's not real. And actually, in the beginning of my webinar, which, a lot of people advise against this, but I actually reveal the price of my program, the PR starter pack, in the very beginning, which a lot of the bro marketers tell you not to do because, traditional marketing 101 is, oh, you got to trick them to go through the whole webinar and then stay on to the end to take the next step. And the traditional convention of thinking that people are going to be scared off if you tell them the price, I didn't want to buy into that anymore. And so through working with the ethical copywriter, I was able to rewrite that narrative and actually from our October launch, we were able to even exceed our February launch in a time of economic uncertainty because we leaned in to abundance, because we decolonized ourselves from the bro marketing messages of false scarcity. And people actually loved it. I had people on the webinar that was like, this is game changing. This is mind blowing. I cannot believe this. Like, yes. I had someone who joined our PR starter pack after we've done a lot of the deep work on ourselves. And she's like, I really didn't want to buy another program. I have so many coaches and things that are thrown at me all the time. I'm inundated. But seeing your energy on the webinar, seeing how aligned you are with your message and how you reject, all of the scarcity marketing out there made me say, yes, I want to be a part of your community. And she actually posted that on Instagram. So this has really been the journey that I've been on since, I had my surgery and we had our first six-figure launch, now leading to the end of the year where we had an even bigger launch. That is really what I've learned is the biggest mistake of my life is just letting scarcity mindset take over for too long. Right. And so I challenge you to think about how is scarcity, because there's always going to be there, right? As humans, with scarce resource biological programming, right? We are always going to try to protect ourselves, to hoard resources, right? To think that there's always a risk or something on the other side of it. But you can't operate like that when you are trying to build a community. And I realized that the more I built my business, the more I realized it's really not just about PR. It's really this community. I mean, our Facebook group now has 5,000 people in it. We have people from all ages and races and different backgrounds, 95% people of color, which I'm so proud of. And that's really a reflection of the safe space that we created, right? We didn't even build this business thinking about that, really. It just happened as a result, and I am so grateful for it, because now I realize that this is so much bigger than just me and this program, right? It's a community. It's a way for people to feel seen and heard and valued as everyday small business heroes with an Etsy shop, right? So that really has that's really the transformation that I've gone on. Another thing, another way that scarcity has really, I want to say, damaged me in many ways is um, of thinking that I cannot respond to people or overgive or overshare, right? So thinking of like, oh well, I'm not going to respond to all these DMs. They need to buy my program, or I'm not going to get back to this person because they just are freebie seekers, and just assuming the worst of people. And I think there's always a balance, right? You I think boundaries are important, and it's important to have boundaries, but when in doubt, always lean into always lean into generosity. It doesn't mean that you're taking every single hour of your time away from your family to answer DMs, but it means that when you give with intention, and you give from a place of your why. And so for me, when I engage with people and I don't feel forced in any way, it has to come from a place of, can I help this person? Do I have the bandwidth to make this person feel elevated, to feel seen? How can I direct them to the right resources, whether it's free or paid, right? Because that's really my mission. And I'll tell you another story is in LA. I actually had a founder asked for a refund. She didn't feel ready. She felt like, there was no way she could tackle this PR, and she was dealing with her own scarcity mindset. And I was hosting my LA female founder gathering, which I had planned for a long time, which I catered from women of color, winemakers and drink makers. And I actually invited her even after she wanted a refund. And she was in absolute shock. She was like, "Are you sure? Like, I feel weird. I don't feel comfortable." And I said, don't feel like you're not invited or taking advantage, because my number one mission is to make you feel elevated and supported. And I knew that if she came to the female founder meetup, she would connect with the amazing, amazing people in our community. I actually had someone who joined the starter pack in 2020 when I just launched. And she said that for a while, she didn't want to work with me because my sales message seemed very like not aligned with me and like high pressure. And since that she saw that I was doing all the internal work, she was just amazed at how transformed it was and the community that I built. And that to me was like the biggest compliment ever, to be able to evolve in front of somebody, to be able to be seen and not be judged, and to create space for other people to do the same. And she actually told me that the free event that I hosted for our PR Starter Pack members, she actually gained more from it than the paid events that she goes to. And the level of connections that she made in that event was more than the 10 years that she has been in New York. I mean, she literally wrote this on Instagram and posted it, and it literally brought tears to my eyes. So that is really me rewriting scarcity and doing things from a radical place of giving, which brings me to my second point, which is one of the biggest mistakes that I have made this year is not understanding that you can have radical, intentional generosity and a thriving business with boundaries at the same time. I think the word boundaries gets thrown around a lot. And I really do think that in this crazy saturated world where people want a response immediately, we need to have boundaries, right? This is not the horse and carriage days where you wait 3 weeks for someone to respond with a letter. So of course, our nervous systems are overstimulated. We have so much going on, but I really think that I thought that there was this zero sum game where the more I gave, right, the less people would buy from me. Or if I gave everything out for free, then people wouldn't get your programs. And this is what we've been taught for so long by the industry, which is, like tell them I think it's someone said, like, tell them the what, but not the how. right? And for me, I don't really think that that's true, because I think you only want to build a community with empowered people, where people are like, yes, like you care about me as a human enough to share with me what you've learned, right? Why would I not want to trust you and give that trust back to you and join your community? And so as I've built my business, I find that piece to be untrue of being like, oh, withhold your secret sauce. And I actually think that founders, especially in the beginning, need to lean into that radical generosity, because this is so rare these days. It is so rare these days. We are so um, we've been so burned by the online industry that if you just do something a little bit different, if you act a little bit more human or a little bit authentic, people will be stunned. I had someone in the DMs, I actually sent them a voice note, and she was like, "Oh my God, Gloria, I can't believe that it's you. I thought it was, a bot or one of your people in your team." Now, I do have my team in my DMs, but she felt like that personal touch just meant so much. So, I choose to radically give with intention the way I want to, like my founder events for the PR starter pack. It doesn't mean that I am going to be in my DMs at all hours of the night hand holding people, right? I think there is a difference. And I think I know that difference when it comes to, do I feel an urge to do this because I'm afraid of losing something? Or is it because I really think people are going to get the benefit, the transformation? And that is how now I make decisions on how I give radically, generously, versus when I hold back to rest or take time to just not respond, because honestly, no one owes anyone a response, right? I'm still working on it. But I think I used to live in the 10-minute response time where I treated emails as DMs, and it's just not healthy. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for my team. So that's something that I'm radically trying to do. I also think that before, when people would write questions about pitching in the Facebook group, it would annoy me a little bit, because I would start to feel a little tense, like, oof, I am worried that this Facebook community is going to be a place where people just come and ask questions for free and leave. And then I just flipped the script, because remember, like, and I sent an email about this, is everything is a matter of framing. So I reframed this perspective, and I said, what if people asking questions on this scary PR journey, right? One that you've been told for decades that you cannot do on your own. And what if that is the result of the safe space that we have created, right? And that is just an extension of that. And so I really think when you reframe things, like, everything changes. So now when people are asking questions in our Facebook group, and by the way, if you're not in our Facebook group, feel free to join. I hang out there a lot. You'll be able to see the amazing PR wins that everyday small business heroes have gained, who are both in my paid program and not. You can go join us right now at www.getfeaturednow.com. Now I see it as like, wow, like we are really building a bridge. We are really making people rethink how they can do PR when they've been told by decades that they either can't do PR, they don't deserve to be seen, or that they're not good enough to be seen. So again, it's all about reframing. And it doesn't bother me as much anymore. It doesn't mean that I am in there at all hours of the night responding to every question, right? That's, again, I cannot do that. But it doesn't make me feel tense, like somehow people are taking advantage. And so in that abundance, in that space of giving, I'm able to respond more creatively. I'm able to come up with more game-changing ideas, right? Kind of like a flower. Like, a flower cannot bloom if it is not open to absorbing like all of the magic of the universe, right? If you are so tense all the time, you're not going to be able to open yourself up to all the opportunities. So that's really how I've changed my mindset when it comes to communication and the safe spaces that we have created for small businesses. Now, the third and last thing I want to leave you with is, it took me a long time to understand that, like, everything starts with you, the business owner, right? Like, I know that your business is a reflection of you. That is like, duh, right? But I didn't realize that there are certain things that you really can't delegate to other people, like building a team, or having someone manage your business for you because you feel like your team members are not being accountable. I've tried all the things. I try to hire an operations person to hold my team accountable and to manage people. But guess what? Nothing really changed. Things were still not getting done. People were still coming to me with problems and not solutions. And that's because the culture that I have built was a reflection of my lack of leadership skills. And until I could step into the full leadership that could create inspired people, right? No amount of delegation to someone outside of me to run my business was going to be able to help them motivate. And my coach, Rick, actually said something really powerful because I kept having issues with my team where I said, why doesn't this person feel motivated? Or why is it that this person doesn't go the extra mile? And he's like, it really is something that comes from a culture that you build. And it doesn't matter if you have an intern or 5 contractors or 5 full-time employees. Your culture, the way you lead, the way that you embody your vision, that will permeate, right, invisibly throughout your organization, so that you don't need to keep cheering and motivating and kicking people in the butt, if you will, right? You will be able to attract people who are naturally inspired by your vision, because let's be honest, money doesn't motivate people that much. I mean, maybe it motivates people to a certain degree, but from what I've learned, if you can't truly step into a leadership role where you embody the values and the culture that you aspire to create, you're not going to be able to create that team culture, and that's going to trickle down. So from me learning to let go, from me learning that it's always about people over profits. So what does that actually mean, right? It means that if there is someone who is in our inbox and they're interested in our program, but my team member is away or it's the weekend, I'm not going to be forcing that person to respond to them. Or if there's a customer service request and it is the weekend and it's a very simple thing that they probably could have looked up somewhere else, and the person is being demanding of our attention, I'm not going to wake up my team member and be like, you need to respond to this person. It's about respecting my team first before trying to just close another sale or get someone in my program. And that shift has, wow, it has single handedly done incredible wonders to my team. I remember in February when we did our first 6-figure launch, when I had a completely different energy. Some people left like right after the launch. And I was like, why is it that we had the most successful launch, but people left and didn't want to work with me? And I realized that it was my micromanaging that has disempowered them. And instead of leading with control and commanding people and, that scarcity, now I lead with how can I inspire people towards a common vision? How can I trust them? Even if it means not responding to people and missing a few sales, how can I equip them so that they can unlock the best potential within themselves? So that means a couple things for me that I've learned. The first one is when I hire someone, I used to want an immediate ROI right away. Right. And now I just understand that it's up to me after I made the hiring decision to fully onboard this person properly, which takes time, which takes processes, which takes systems. And I'm probably not going to be able to get a tangible ROI for 60 days or more. And that is trusting in the universe. And that's just how it's done. It's trusting that the long term investment you're putting in this person is going to outweigh any kind of short term you trying to squeeze everything out of them. Because I did that and it literally left me so burnt out. I remember asking myself and my husband, why is it that I had 5 people working for me, yet I was doing all the work and no one cared? And I realized that the change starts with you. And this is really what I'm trying to say is your business starts with you. Your leadership starts with you. Whether or not people feel motivated, it starts with you. Now, if someone's not motivated and they're just drop the ball, that's really different. But if you really feel like you want to hire this person and somehow you've noticed that they're really just not up to the task, maybe figure out what is it in your leadership first, or in the way that you drive everyone towards a common vision, and not just a revenue goal, but a vision. So for me, I used to have these big launch goals, right? We want to hit this number or that number. And one of the big changes I made with this launch that we just had was I didn't even have a revenue goal. Like we had, like benchmarks of like what would be nice, but it wasn't this like constant like pushing like, oh my God, we have 3 days left. We have this many people. I remember being on the edge of my seat in February when I was burnt out, like just drilling into my team, being like, how can we hit our numbers? Like messages people, like, and now it's like, I only want hell yes people in my program, because if people are not inspired to make a decision, it doesn't mean that they're not scared to do PR, but if they're empowered, they're going to become much better people in our community. They're going to cause less problems, right? They're not going to be people who are asking for refunds because they already are empowered to say hell yes. And so by only attracting the people you're meant to attract and not trying to sell at all costs, even though I know my program works, that's not for everyone. That's okay, right? And one of the things I did for this launch was not having a numbers goal, but also I literally told my team before I got on any kind of live webinar, I said, no matter what happens, I consider our launch a success already. And this was even before day one. And I think just giving your team that trust of being like, I see you, I know you, and I know that together we will make change, right? We will inspire small businesses to take matters into their own hands, to gain the confidence to rewrite their story. That was my why. It wasn't like, oh, I want 1,000 people in my program. It was like, how can we literally rewrite the small business landscape by empowering everyday heroes who are immigrants, who are people of color, whose English is not their first language, who are neurodiverse and maybe have a learning disability? How can we empower them to tell their story, even if they don't feel ready? Because these are the people who deserve to be heard the most, right? It's not just the people who look like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk who are in the media. And so along this journey, I think the thread that really ties everything in of me, letting go and burning out and not operating from a source of scarcity is I realized that my message has also changed, and I realized my why. I knew my why, right, which was PR, like for business, but now it goes beyond that. Like before, if you asked me in February, it's like, what is your mission? And it's like, oh, like I want to help small businesses be seen and heard so that they can save money on ads and agencies and still get in front of more customers. Like that's all fine and good. But now this work is sacred to me because growing up, I never saw anyone who looked like me in the media as an entrepreneur doing anything that was mold breaking, right? I was told to put my head down, stay in my lane, and just work for someone and just say, yes, sir, right? As long as the person was paying me. And I realized in doing this work and the diversity of our members that we are literally together rewriting the narrative of what a modern entrepreneur is, a modern builder and creator, someone who gets back to their community, someone who comes up with creative solutions, right? That benefits people's lives for the better. And we cannot rewrite what that looks like if we do not pitch ourselves and get featured in the media. This work is sacred to me. And it's becoming more and more sacred now that I have overcome so many of the difficult times of this year and figuring out why is it that I was so burnt out and I wasn't able to have a team that cared as much as I did. And now I really see a dramatic change. So, in an effort to be open and vulnerable and honest, this episode is very different than what we usually do, right? Because you know me, I'm all about actionable, like no BS, like get to the strategies. But I really feel like strategies only go so far, but you need to embody those values in order for those strategies to work, right? The strategies will only take you so far. I mean, that's why we have founders who are making candles in their garage. And we have also founders who are making millions of dollars. And the person who literally is making candles in their garage are getting the top tier media features and exploding their business because they embody that. They embody the value. They understand they're doing so much more than making candles, right? They're providing a light for people who are suffering. Their story of overcoming domestic violence is inspiring other people, whatever that is. So, you know, we're recording this in Q4. I just want to thank you for creating a space for me to be able to be myself, to evolve in front of you imperfectly, because I am going to continue to evolve. I'm going to make more mistakes, and you're going to see all of it. But I want to say thank you for allowing me to evolve. And hopefully, there's something in my journey of sharing how I have evolved and how I have so far so much more to do and so many more things I'm still working on. Hopefully, that will allow you to reflect on your own story, not be afraid to share it. Because remember, it starts with you, and stories and sharing yourself is a window, a bridge of connection that you're building to the outside world so that you can impact someone out there, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing by sharing my story with you. So I'm so proud of how far not only I've come, but my team has come. um it's just feels so different recording this like in the last month of the year versus the first few months where I had my surgery and I burned myself out. And I really look forward to, having all of the lessons that I've learned permeate throughout my business. For example, we've added monthly calls to our PR starter pack while keeping the price accessible. And everyone's like, oh my God, are you sure? Like, those calls, it's kind of like a mastermind. It's a lot, and people are not going to want to work with you one on one. And I rejected all those stories. And I said, I really love connecting people. And if they can feel seen and supported on a call with me per month, then I want to do that, So that's what we've added as well. And we've been working hard to upgrade the portal. We're adding so many things to it, including a month by month pitching ideas calendar, and a fully upgraded onboarding system. We are not expert course creators. I'm not a funnel magician. I'm not a bro marketer using templates. So we created this course without any blueprint of what courses look like. So as we try to get ramped up and having a better user experience, with the content that we have is so transformative. I want to say thank you to all of our members who have joined the PR Starter Pack. And if you're not yet in the Starter Pack, definitely check us out. See us in the Facebook group. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And whenever you're ready on your journey, right, reach out to us. Because there's magic waiting to happen. There's so much magic waiting to happen, and so many people waiting to be inspired by you. And just remember that you are worth it.